All right, welcome back, Cuse Nation, to the Upstate Orange podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. I'm Jim Sinicropi inside the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls on Sunday night, November 6th, 2016. It's a new-look Syracuse basketball team with a total of 6 new faces, 3 of them freshmen, 2 grad transfers, and good old Pascal Chukwu, who's finally eligible after sitting out a season since transferring from Providence. And we'll talk all about the new faces tonight. Some familiar ones, too, coming back. And this will be the first podcast of many this winter, and hopefully deep into the spring as we discuss the Syracuse Orange men's basketball team with my co-host, the professor, Brad Connor, who is right here. How you doing, Brad?
Fantastic, Jim. How are you tonight?
And there he is. He's just been a voice without a face, but now we've got him Skyped in from Cincinnati in our Cincinnati Studio B. And it should be a lot more fun tonight. As a matter of fact, Brad, let's split screen us right there, and there we both go. So we both got a chance to check out the first exhibition game of the season. Syracuse defeating Indiana of Pennsylvania, 83-65, and I don't know, it was a little disconcerting getting down early to those guys, but I'm excited, man. We're deep, we're big, we're talented. The new guys all look good. Torian Thompson was a nice surprise. I'm excited about this team, where when we last met, we weren't sure back in the spring if Malachi Richardson was staying or going. And then when Richardson left, we were kind of thinking, there goes, we'd probably be unranked even next preseason. But I don't know. We look pretty good. I think we're flying under the radar.
That's the nature of college basketball now. I mean, it's what can you do to get your team ready each and every year with new guys. There's very few teams that stay constant from one year to the next with their core group. The best players go NBA freshman, sophomore year. We were lucky to have Trevor Cooney and Mike Benajay for their senior years, their redshirt senior years, and you just have to reload. That's the only way you can stay relevant in college basketball anymore. And
Boeheim, seems to be a big fan of these grad transfers. He left a couple open spots for the guys that are coming in, Andrew White III and Guillen from Colorado State. And, I think Duke and Kentucky, for example, they're just trying to load up with as many top, 10 nationally ranked freshmen that are guaranteed one and dones as he can. And it seems like maybe Coach Boeheim's recruiting strategy has been a little different.
Yeah, I think he's trying to create a bit of a mix, it seems like. He's made some comments about some of these guys, Tyus Battle in particular, where he said, he'll have a good, strong NBA career. And he hasn't really said that about too many guys in the past, but I don't think that you see too many guys on this roster, at least in the freshmen, that are going to be one and done. Now, we said that about Malachi Richardson a year ago, and then
right.
Look what happened. But you could also have made the case that Malachi Richardson would never have gone one and done were it not for the last 3 weeks of that season either. So, I think Jim Boeheim looks to bring in guys. He doesn't get, to be quite honest, he doesn't get a lot of 5-star recruits, guys that, are guys that would otherwise not even play in college. He brings in guys that probably do require a bit of seasoning, and he's able to bring them up to that level where he can get them an NBA look. But he's not going to bring in the guys that Duke and Kentucky are bringing in, which are guys that absolutely would not go to college unless they had to.
Right. And, I think he'll still take one every now and then, and Tyus Battle might be one of them. But even when he recruited Carmelo, we didn't think Carmelo was necessarily going to be an automatic one and done, until, they made the run and won the national title.
Yeah, coming in, you heard just as much from about Jerry McNamara as you did about Carmelo Anthony, given, what McNamara did in high school, and he was the mayor of Scranton and everything else. And he was a 4-year guy, certainly not as much of an NBA talent, but you're right. Carmelo Anthony, no one ever thought that he'd come in, lead the team to a national championship, and be gone. And that broke the mold of anything we'd seen from this program up until that point.
So the old coach is adjusting, and we're coming off a Final Four run and just a couple years removed from a previous Final Four run. I mean, it really is kind of a golden age almost for the Orange right now, we're hoping. Coming off those NCAA sanctions too, which that could be a topic for another show, about how North Carolina's penalties and potentially Louisville's penalties will appear like they might be much, much less than Syracuse's, even though Syracuse, didn't do anything as egregious as either one of those schools. So it doesn't make sense. And I don't know if you saw the article this past week, but when the Syracuse basketball media guide came out, they had to name the players and of course, who is the biggest culprit that got us in this trouble is one of my least favorite players in Syracuse history, number 33, Terrence Roberts. So
it's hard to believe that he was on that. Not hard to believe he was on that list.
Yeah.
That's Melo. You'd expect that.
We knew about Melo.
Billy Edelin was on that list. Yeah. That shouldn't shock anyone.
But Terrence Roberts wasn't really anybody we were thinking about, and when this was, but I think there was 44 games vacated because Roberts played in them, 44 wins.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
as a Syracuse fan, we'd have rather not had those games anyway.
Yeah. So, but as we do it here on the Upstate Orange podcast, we go through the big 5 topics of the week, and should be no different here for our debut episode. And topic number 1. Brad, who's going to be our point guard in 2016-17? And we have Frank Howard, the sophomore, coming back, and who showed a lot of promise last year. And then we have the fifth-year senior grad transfer John Guillen from Colorado State.
I thought it was interesting to me that he went with Frank Howard starting against IUP. Now, we have to caution ourselves not to make too much of one.
For the Orange start playing the Brooklyn Hoops Holiday Invitational, which will feature 3 home games in the Dome. Holy Cross on Tuesday the 15th, Monmouth on Friday, November 18th, and then South Carolina State on Tuesday, November 22nd. And then they'll play South Carolina in the Barclays Center in the final round of that tournament. I think this is one of those things where if they lose one of the early round games, they're still going. So doesn't seem fair. Let's see if we can get Brad back in here. As we're ringing him up here. Yeah, nope, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Well, this is disappointing. Let's try it one more time here. There he is. Hey, Brad. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Oh, no, we lost him again too, huh? Well, hang tight for just 1 second here. Let's see if we can get Brad on the old phone via the way we did it last year in the previous 5 years of this podcast. Hold tight for 1 second. Brad here. Hey there. You there?
Yes.
We got you on the phone and the Skype. Want to stick with Skype?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll hang up that phone. All right. So we have a little technical difficulties there.
I got my Wi-Fi extender in the room now. Hopefully we're better equipped.
You got your kids streaming HD video while we're trying to do this podcast?
Yeah, I had to yell at them, but they confirmed that they were off. So,
well, let's forge ahead. How the question was, who's going to be point guard? Now, I gave my thoughts, and but I think our listeners are waiting to hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot where I was. I was talking about Frank Howard, and I thought he showed some really nice things last year. but he made some freshman mistakes, and he was kind of loose with the ball sometimes, and we sort of chalked it up to freshman mistakes. And I saw a bit of the same stuff against IUP, and again, not making too much of that game. But I'll tell you what I saw of John Gillen, I loved watching him run the show on this team. I think he understands how the game is played. He should. He's a fifth-year senior. I think he's able to break down a defense. He can shoot. He's just little, and I think you lose a little bit in the zone with him up top. I think that to me is the only weakness I see. But I think they run a more efficient offense with him. Not to say that Frank Howard can't be a guy who creates an effective set out of the offense, but I think John Gillen can run things. He's quicker with the ball. I think he's a quicker decision maker at this stage of his career, and I think he's going to be the engine. I think, honestly.
Yeah, and you talk about experience. We bring in a guy. He's a new face to us, but he is 23 years old as opposed to, he's playing against 19-year-olds out there. So there's something to be said about the experience factor. But I'm a big Frank Howard fan. Guillen's definitely one and done. He's going to be here this year, and so he's going to help us out. But I hope that it doesn't hinder Frank Howard's development, because I view him as one of the next great Orange point guards for the next 3 years. We're going to enjoy him. Yeah,
that was a point I was going to make too. Is the more that Frank Howard's not on the floor, it does hamper him and his ability to develop. And so I hope that they can continue to let both those guys in, and maybe you can run even put both those guys up top, and I think see what options that creates for you. I didn't see that too often the other night, and it may just be an either or kind of situation, but I'm curious what they could do when both of them are on the floor.
Yeah, there's just too many other talented players that you'd have to sacrifice minutes for to do that.
True.
And of course we'll get into that, and I guess that's a good segue to our next topic of the night, which is the Orange freshman class. First of all, there's the big one, Tyus Battle, and then you got Matthew Moyer, had a little injury to his foot in the summer. It seemed like he was going to redshirt, but then he showed up for the start of practice and was fine. So, I guess time will tell if Boeheim's going to use a redshirt on him. And then Torian Thompson, who was probably the brightest surprise in that exhibition opener, showing a variety of post moves from the high post and a soft baby hook shot. And even the announcers were commenting on how everybody's excited about how ready Torian Thompson, who was, I think he was like a 77th ranked player nationally, in the mold of a type of guy who's not going to play maybe in the first year or two and then develop. It's kind of like a Tyler Roberson, I suppose, but he seems to be a lot more refined. So it's Battle, Moyer, and Thompson, and as far as Battle goes, he's got that one and done look to him, and he's a big guy. He's a big, guard swingman. Who just fits into our system so well. And, of course, he came out and made his first 3 3-pointers in an orange uniform in that exhibition game. And it's a great class. It's a great class with, Moyer looks like and Thompson look like 4-year guys, and Battle's going to be our one and done. Maybe not. I shouldn't put the tag on him. But what's your impression of our freshman class?
A lot of what you said. Torian Thompson, and I'll admit I didn't know a whole lot about him, leading up into the exhibition the other night. From the first minute he was on the floor, and he didn't start, but they went, 5 in when it went down, 10-2 or some crazy ridiculous start. And he came in, got an offensive rebound and a putback, or maybe not a putback, but he was active from the first minute he was out there. And I thought, I like this guy. I love to see a guy get active, get on the glass, especially a guy that size, and try and create things for himself. The opposite example was Chukwu, who I didn't think really did much of anything. He seemed really passive. Thompson went out there and made things happen, and I love to see that from a freshman. He's the sort of the eagerness that they bring, that you realize, hey, this thing's 10 deep. I need to earn my minutes, and he really came out and tried to do that. his body type, his style, sort of a little bit reminded me of Chris McCullough. Not nearly as talented, obviously, but I think that's the kind of guy he maybe could be with a bit more seasoning. So I really like what I saw from him.
Yeah.
Tyus Battle, he's going to be a fantastic talent. He already is. I think he's a little bit in the mold of Malachi Richardson. I think similar style game. He's got a goofy shot. I think he shoots it from kind of in front of his face a little bit. He doesn't really get the ball very high, so it doesn't seem like it should be a very effective shot. But he knocked it down the other night, and from all reports, he's an excellent shooter and consistent shooter. So hopefully that's what we'll continue to see from him.
Yeah. And 6'7" too. That
attack the rim a little bit more with his size, and that's really what we saw that with Richardson a little bit when he settled for jump shots. He was not nearly as effective as he was toward the end of the season when he was really attacking the glass. And at Moyer, I'm not sure we're going to see a whole lot of Moyer. He's sort of the odd man out, I think, in this lineup. It's good to see him get a few minutes here and there early on, but I'm not sure he's got enough talent to really contribute much this year. I think a red shirt would probably be a good thing for him.
Well, the thing about Thompson is that if he is going to be in the rotation and figure into the mix, it's really going to help us, because that means Leiden can play the three more. If Roberson's coming out, just having that extra big guy that we can count on in regular rotation, I think is going to give Boeheim even more options than he's already going to have with this team. So it's going to be fun to watch Boeheim coach these guys with the rotation, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. If is Boeheim still going to go 7, maybe 8 deep all year long, even with all this talent? And Battle at 6'7", even if he's not getting that ball up for the jump shot at 6'7", he's taller than most shooting guards in the NCAA. So.
With the size that this team's going to have on the floor, he's going to be guarded by a guy who's 6'3", 6'4" more often than not.
So it's a good class. It's a good freshman class, as we've become accustomed to, and it doesn't look like there's a with only the 3 guys. But we missed on a few guys over the past several years. I don't think we missed on any of these guys. I think Moyer might come along in a year or two before he starts to really contribute. But Thompson looks ready to go, and Battle's certainly ready to go. So another new face. Who was in practice all last year and sat on the bench, and you couldn't miss him because he's 7'2", is Pascal Chukwu, the transfer from Providence, who sat out. And I had a tough time. He was the most disappointing guy for me in that exhibition game, but I don't want to be too hard on him, because anytime you're 7'2" and you're going out there against a Division II team where you got 6'7", their center's 6'7", it's tough to be effective. It's tough to see how good he's really going to be. I think a guy like that's even better, when he's going against 6'10" guys rather than, these Division II centers. So even the Lemoyne game might be tough to gauge, but I was hoping, in my mind, all summer long, I just pictured this 7'2" beast in the middle of the zone, blocking shots like Fab Mello did. He showed a little bit of a touch with the basketball too, and he didn't look super thin like a lot of 7'2" guys. So I guess the jury's still out on Chukwu.
Yeah, he did a couple of good things. I guess to your point, if he's 7'2" and the biggest, he's 7 inches taller than the biggest guy on the other side, you expect him to have a bit more low post presence, back to the basket, being able to drop step and dunk on someone's head, and we didn't see a lot of that. Where he's obviously a presence is it really allows Syracuse to put the press on and be very aggressive with it, because if they do get beat, he is a rim protector in the back end of that press, where I don't think Dajuan Coleman can be that same presence. I think a 2-on-1 can beat Dajuan Coleman. Yeah. He's not quick enough. He's not long enough to be able to against a good 2-on-1. Against a good 2-on-1, a 7'2" guy with that kind of wingspan, you're still going to create a presence. You're still going to make that team think, maybe we just pull it out and wait to set up the offense.
Yep, or pull up.
Yep. That's where he's going to really, really be a benefit to this team, is if they do have the depth to allow them to press and make that a significant part of defense turning into offense type of approach to the game, he's going to need to be on the floor to allow them to be comfortable taking chances in the full court.
So who is going to log the most minutes at center? We've got Chuck Wu, we've got Coleman, who's been around forever and might look like he's finally ready to live up to that high school All-American type of resume that he brought in to Syracuse before the knee injury. And then Tyler Lydon, we all know that he is pretty comfortable putting him in the middle of that zone as well. So between the three of those, who's going to log the most minutes? Not on the court, because I think Lydon will be the answer there, but at the center position, I think Coleman will start. And but after that, who knows? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I honestly think we're not going to see any of those three guys be predominant with the center spot. I think you're going to see different lineups at different times with each of the three. I don't think I see Chuck Wu playing 15 to 20 minutes a night probably. I see Coleman probably 20 minutes a night, and then and that leaves 10 minutes maybe for Lydon to shift into the five. Lydon, I was pleasantly surprised. He seems quite a bit bigger than he was a year ago, thicker. I think he'll be able to defend the guys on the block a little bit more effectively this year than he probably could last year, where he was a bit out of place. I think in a close game, in a tight game down the stretch, Lydon will probably be at the center spot. I don't think Coleman's probably ever going to get to the point where you can count on him to be a guy, 2 minutes left, you want him on the floor. And Chuck Wu, I don't think is that guy either, unless, you're down, you're trying to, if you're down 4 or 5 points and you need to create turnovers, you need to create steals. I think Chuck Wu may be in there because, again, you need to put on the press and you need to protect your backside to make sure you don't get beat deep. But I don't think you'll see any of the three, and this is, just based on what I've seen so far, that would log any more significant minutes than any of the other three, at least at the center spot.
Yeah, I think Boeheim rewards his seniors, and Coleman's a super senior at this point. So he's going to get his share of minutes. He's going to start, and I can't see him playing much less than 15 to 20 minutes a game. And then, Chuck Wu might be the odd man out. I think Chuck Wu will play more minutes depending on the team that they're playing against and depending on the foul trouble that Coleman might get himself into. Chuck Wu's still just, I think, a sophomore according to eligibility. So he still has time to develop. And
it's going to take him time, too. I mean, keep in mind, he's been out for a year.
Right.
He hasn't played competitive basketball for 12 months. I mean, it's longer than that. So it's going to take him time to feel comfortable out there. He'll definitely be eased into it.
Yeah. And if Lydon, which we know he can play the five, the advantage of having Lydon on the five is now you can have Battle and Howard and Andrew White III, and Roberson on the court at the same time. Because if Lydon's playing the 3 or the 4 and Coleman's at center, somebody's got to sit out, and it'll probably be Battle or White. So with Lydon playing the 5, then you might have your most talented lineup on the court at the same time. So that might be another reason why the answer might be Lydon. Lydon might be the dark horse answer to this question.
Yeah.
But we'll find out. It won't take long. Syracuse has some pretty competitive games, in December, so it really won't be long. And looking at their schedule, it's a tough one compared to what we're used to. They don't leave the Dome until they don't have a true road game until they play Boston College on January, the first ACC game.
Don't think we're not going to hear about that one a few times between now and then, huh?
But they are going to be in Madison Square Garden against UConn, and they're going to be at the Barclays Center against South Carolina. So
actually, don't they play at Wisconsin in the?
Oh yeah. You're right. Good call. The ACC Big Ten Challenge is at Wisconsin, so that's a big road game. So they do leave the Dome for a true road game before that ACC opener against BC. So
good. So we don't have to hear the analysts talk about not leaving New York State.
They still may, but
they still will. They always do. But yeah. They'll say, well, except for Wisconsin, they haven't left New York State.
That's right. And the Barclays Center, I think, is in New Jersey, so we have that one too.
Yeah.
So, with all these new faces on the roster this year, a totally revamped orange, look and roster of players, which one of the newcomers is going to have the biggest impact? It's easy to say Battle, but Andrew White III is a fifth-year senior who is a three-category statistical guy who played, was in the Big Ten last year. He was among the leading scorers in the Big Ten, and he was also pulling down rebounds and dishing out assists. I mean, it'll be one of those two, I think, would be the biggest impact players. But what do you think?
I'm gonna go off the board on that one. I'm gonna give you somebody different.
Okay.
I'm gonna say John Galen.
Wow, you're high on that little John Galen.
Yeah, and the reason why, to be successful in the postseason, you know this as well as anybody, you need a good, almost great point guard.
Yeah.
You need somebody to drive that engine. We had it last year. Mike Gbinije ended up being a really, really good college point guard. No one ever really would have thought that, and that's it took 3 years of him building up to it to finally get to that point, and that's what put him in the Final Four. You think about these teams that Syracuse has had in the past; they've had the best teams have had that point guard, and I think he's just going to create offense for this team. He's not going to give you as much on defense, but I think he can defend the ball. I think he's just he's not the prototype of 6'4" long arms at the top of that zone. But he's going to lead you on that fast break, and that's a dynamic of this team we haven't seen a whole lot of over the last several years, is being able to get out on 3-on-2, 2-on-1 type runouts, and be able to make the right decision, and just getting guys in the right spots. I saw a lot of that the other night. I was really, really happy with it. I think he between him and Frank Howard, but I think Galen will be the guy before this season's over, where he's going to be the starting point guard, and Boeheim wants to win. He's not. He's 72 years old. He's not necessarily looking at the long view. He wants to win, and he wants to win now. And I think he's less concerned about developing for the future.
Yeah, that's an interesting call. Could Gian be the biggest impact of all these new faces? I still gotta go with Tyus Battle, and I think it's going to be similar to the Malachi Richardson impact last year. I think it just gets better and better until he finally gels, in February, March, hopefully, and really takes over his scoring. But it's tough for me to I don't think people realize, how solid and rounded and, well aged a player Andrew White is coming in. I mean, he played for Kansas.
Looks grizzled.
Yeah,
just look at him. He looks veteran.
I mean, he's played in the Big 12 for Kansas. He's played in the Big 10 for Nebraska, and now he's bringing his talents to the Carrier Dome for one last year. So it's a good argument to have, because I agree with you that Gian's going to be an impact player. We both agree that Battle and White are going to be impact players, and we talked earlier about how Torian Thompson could be an impact player. So it's not often that Syracuse brings in that many people to an existing team and has that many. Usually it's just one guy might have an impact. Last year it was two, Tyler Lydon and Malachi Richardson. But this year it could be 3 or 4 impact players, and Chuck Wu could be 5. So
here's the thing, Jim, and I don't know what you think about this. I'd be curious to hear. With Andrew White, he comes in with a lot of acclaim. He's certainly a 5th-year guy. He put his name in the ring to go early, not to go early, but to go out in the NBA, and then pulled his name back out. Had the opportunity to play in a high-profile program in a different conference, be able to be on TV 20 times through national TV over the course of the season, etc. I worry a little bit about Andrew White using this as an NBA tryout.
Well, I'm sure it's probably on his mind. Yeah.
I mean, he seems like a shoot first guy, at least from early watching against IUP. Like there was one or two times where he could have made a real easy pass to a teammate for a layup, and he took a tough shot.
Yeah, I guess
And
he's
I
gonna.
worry a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's justified.
He's only been in Syracuse. He's only been in Syracuse for 2-3 months. He in 4 months he'll be gone from Syracuse. He doesn't necessarily need to focus on the team. He's kind of focused on himself maybe a little bit. So I hope we'll see more of him part of that team, being a leader on the team. You think of a guy like Wes Johnson, who came in, who came from Iowa State and sat the year, and then he became a valuable player for this team and was a good team guy and definitely boosted his stock for the NBA. Can Andrew White be that guy, or is he a guy like a Dante Green, who comes in and kind of wants his own and doesn't really, just wants to do what he can so he can get into the NBA? I don't know. I hope I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, for Andrew White, he's not going to have the opportunity probably to even average as many points as he averaged last year in Nebraska. I think it was 16.7 points a game. It'll be tough, I think, for him to reach that mark, or anybody on this team with as much talent. I would think maybe Tyler Lydon might have the best chance to have that type of average, or maybe Battle. So you're not going to see three guys averaging 16, 17 points a game. So somebody's going to have to defer at some point. And is Andrew White, the 23-year-old grad student guy, gonna defer to the 18, 19-year-old Tyus Battle? So that could cause issues. But I'd hope to think, as anybody would know, that 23-year-old, you're more of a man at that point, and you're more experienced, and so hopefully he sees the big picture, and hopefully the coaching staff will convince him that team first is a great path to the next level for him.
Yeah, look what happened with Malachi Richardson. He helped lead his team to a Final Four and got himself a first-round pick because of it.
Yeah, so it really, I guess a lot of that comes down to how you play in March, too. So
True, very true.
All right, one more topic here before we get to Connor's Corner Trivia for the first time this season. And, Boeheim played man-to-man in that exhibition, which was kind of crazy. And he's got talent 10 deep on this roster. Looks like he might be willing to press a lot more. I mean, when this season starts, is it going to be the same whole Boeheim, when the games get real? Is he going to pull the leash, and is a guy like Torian Thompson going to sit on the bench for 2 straight games without playing at all? I don't know. I mean, what do you see Boeheim changing up anything? We already talked about how he changed his recruiting style a little bit and strategy. But this stuff about him maybe playing man-to-man this year, that just seems crazy. I think that's a red herring, or I don't think he's going to be playing much man-to-man. What do you think?
No. I mean, do we have a large enough sample size on Jim Boeheim to know what he's about and how he coaches and how he does what he does?
Right.
He doesn't like having a large roster. He doesn't like having to make a lot of substitution choices. He likes to go with the guys he likes to go with. He likes to do the things he knows he's good at, which is his own defense, which is a tight rotation. It's starting to become a little bit more of a slower paced offense. I think he's got weapons to be able to open up the offense, and I think he's got weapons to be able to press more. So I think you can see more of that. I mean, I think if given the right guys on the floor, he's proven that this team can press. The zone principles that it uses in the half court are just as effective in the full court if you've got the right guys to be able to execute it. And I think he's got that this year. So I think you'll see more of that. I think probably the biggest reason, I mentioned it earlier, is because you've got that support deep with Chukwu when he's on the floor to be able to correct errors. UVA, as much as the press won that game for Syracuse against UVA in the tournament last year, early on they were beating the press and got 2-on-1s and were converting on it.
Yeah.
They stopped doing it. They stopped attacking eventually, and that worked obviously in Syracuse's favor. But they can attack a guy like Coleman. They can attack a guy, at least last year, a guy like Lydon. I don't think you can attack a guy that's 7'2". So I think you'll see more press. Man to man, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
In the time they did man to man against IUP, I mean, and Boeheim said it. He said it. He said it time and time again. He said the reason we go man to man or go zone is we just can focus on zone, and that's all he had to do in practice. To play an effective man to man, I mean, there's a lot more than just guarding your man. To play good team defense in a man to man, I mean, you know, one guy gets beat off a dribble. You know, somebody has to slide over, then somebody else has to protect the backside of that, and there's a lot of rotations that have to happen. And what I saw them in the man, they were not sliding over and rotating and playing team defense at all.
Yeah, they got down 15 points to a Division II team playing it.
Oh, it's terrible. It was terrible. You know what? It's not that they don't have guys that can defend on the ball, but when they do get beat, they don't have any help. And that's if you're trained to play a zone, if you've played your zone since the time you got on campus, and you're asked to play man, well, you can play man, but you're not going to play good team defense in a man-to-man.
Right.
And that's the difference. And I don't think this team is equipped to do that, and I don't think they want to waste their time doing it.
Yeah, I agree with you on all the points. In addition to having the 7-2 guy at the back of the press, we have more bodies, so that might lead to Boeheim being forced to play, 9 deep in some of these games. But I think all things being equal, that he'll have that rotation at like 7 guys. That seventh guy may change from game to game, but there's once the games start, Torian Thompson may make a mistake and get pulled, never to be seen again.
Yep. I think Frank Howard will be the guy who gets pulled, not to be seen. He lit into Frank Howard at one timeout, if you remember.
When we had the technical difficulties 20 minutes ago. That's exactly what I talked about. Is it looks like Frank Howard's Boeheim's new whipping boy, which might be to the credit and or to the benefit of Guillen. But yeah, you could see it. You can see it.
Yeah.
It's gonna
sort of like Scoop was before Scoop was a senior. Scoop was the whipping boy for a long time.
Right, and so Boeheim, it's tough love from Boeheim. He's trying to get these guys do what he wants them to do, and he can't stand seeing them make the same stupid mistakes. And some guys like Paul Harris is the typical example, is just going to constantly be the focus of his ire. And it looks like poor Frank Howard this year. So let's hope he can take it. I'm sure Mike Hopkins will take him to the side, and Jerry McNamara and Red Autry, and tell him it's going to be okay. But yeah, it's going to be the same old Boeheim. Few wrinkles, nothing major changing. And speaking of nothing major changing, about this point in every show, we enjoy some great orange trivia on a segment we like to call Connor's Corner. So Brad's getting hydrated, and here we go. For the first time this season, we got some orange trivia for you.
So every year I say I should come out with a bang. I have 5 months, 6 months to look into a great trivia question, and then it always seems underwhelming to me. But I don't know. This one speaks to sort of the early season schedule that Syracuse has in front of them, which they typically have every year. They've got Lemoyne coming up, and then Colgate and Brooklyn tournament with Holton and Holy Cross, and so these are teams that we see year in and year out, and Syracuse tends to not have too much trouble with a lot of these early games, and that's fine because they're tune-ups, and every school does that, and that's exactly what they should do.
Right.
But the predominantly, and this is a good thing, Syracuse tends to schedule teams from New York State, and they get the reputation they never leave New York State, et cetera. And but I think it's a good thing because local fans like to see those games, and even the players on the other teams like to play in those games because they a lot of times grew up Syracuse fans, so that's fun for them. But as you look back at a lot of the teams that they've played, these New York State teams, they don't really fare very well. So let me ask you, and this is kind of a short but sweet. This isn't a 2-part or a 3-part or a 10-part kind of question. Syracuse has played New York State teams year in and year out many, many times. When was the last time Syracuse lost to a New York State team?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say St. John's last year.
Very good. Very good. When was the last time that Jim Boeheim lost to a New York State team?
Oh, that's right. Poor Hopkins was coaching that game.
Yeah.
And we won't count the Lemoyne exhibition, right?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, right? I mean,
Well, that was an exhibition, so I'd rather keep it real here.
Yeah.
Geez, when's the last time Syracuse lost to a team from New York State, but not counting that St. John's game? It may have been St. John's. It may have been St. John's another time.
It was. So it was St. John's 2 years ago.
Oh, we lost to St. John's 2 years ago as well, huh?
Yeah, and I'd forgotten that until I was looking this question up.
So St. John's has been like down too. So
Right. Well, they were really down last year.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they were decent. They had some NBA guys on that roster, if you remember. But yeah, last year they were terrible. That was inexcusable last year. Okay, so all right, this is a multi-part question.
Okay.
So take St. John's out of the equation.
Okay.
When was the last time Syracuse lost to a New York State team that wasn't named St. John's?
No, it hasn't been. They never lost to Iona. They never lost to Binghamton. They never lost to Buffalo.
Tell me who the last team was.
Never lost to Colgate. They've never lost to like Manhattan, St. Francis in New York. I'm trying to think of any of these New York State teams. I think has to be St. Bonaventure in like the 1970s.
Not a bad call. Not Bonaventure. The year was 1981.
Niagara?
No, incorrect.
1981.
It was a 1-point loss. Tony Red Bruin was the leading scorer with 16 points. Thanks to orangehoops.org for the
that's where they all come from. That's the best site on the internet for Syracuse fans. Orangehoops.org. Man, I don't know. 1981. I can't even wager a guess.
Fordham.
Oh, Fordham, the Rams. I always tend to think.
So Fordham's an A-10 team. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think Syracuse schedules them very often anymore.
Right. We played them a couple years ago.
Yeah, once every 8 to 10 years. And I mean, they scheduled Bonaventure more frequently recently as another A-10
Yep.
New York State team. And Fordham's been up and down. Bonaventure obviously has too. Bonaventure made the tournament 8 to 10 years ago probably, but yeah, I went through how many 35 years of schedules
to get to one.
to find the last time Syracuse lost to a New York State team that wasn't St. John's.
Well,
They lost to St. John's quite a few times in those 35 years.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, it was crazy. It's been 35 years since Syracuse lost to a team that wasn't named St. John's. That was
so good. Good luck, Colgate.
Yeah, exactly. That leads us right into the Colgate game on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a good start with the trivia, Brad, for the year. That was really good. I like that. But
yeah, there was no way you were going to get that answer, but it was good fodder for thinking back to old Syracuse.
I should have got orangehoops.org open on my phone, although I wouldn't have been able to go through all those seasons in time to find it.
No, I did. Well, when we were getting this set up, that's what I was doing. I kept flipping back. You got to be kidding me. It's going back to the 80s.
Well, they'll kick off their season on Friday against Colgate. One more warm-up against Lemoyne in the Dome on Tuesday night. So we're going to have one real game under our belt when we get back together next Sunday, probably Sunday night. The time of the show might change from week to week based on our personal schedules needing to line up. But, yeah, they'll open with Colgate at the Dome Friday at 7 o'clock. And then after that, it's this Brooklyn Hoops Holiday Invitational. Tuesday, November 15th against Holy Cross, 7 o'clock. And then Friday, November 18th against Monmouth at 7 o'clock. South Carolina State comes to the Dome on Tuesday, November 22nd at 7 o'clock. And then Saturday, November 26th, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, they'll be at the Barclays Center to face the South Carolina Gamecocks. And
Sort of back-to-back South Carolina.
yeah, South Carolina State in South Carolina. Then it's the ACC Big Ten Challenge where they'll be at Wisconsin. Diminished Wisconsin team, but probably, I'm sure, still pretty strong. Haven't really looked too much at Wisconsin this year. And then it's North Florida in the Dome, UConn and Madison Square Garden, which will be a lot of fun. Boston University, Georgetown in the Dome on Saturday, December 17th. Eastern Michigan in the Dome on the 19th of December. Good old St. John's on Wednesday, December 21st in the Dome. and then Cornell in the Dome on the 27th, and that's the entire pre-conference schedule for the Orange. So a lot stronger than maybe we're used to, but it's becoming more the norm now, especially with Syracuse being in the ACC and the Orange trying to maintain some of these Big East rivalries. So Georgetown.
Yeah, how great is it that they got UConn, Georgetown, and St. John's?
Yeah.
It would have been even better if they had Villanova, but I'm not sure you want to play the defending national champs. So.
But I think we got Villanova next year on the schedule, so it's yeah, it is good. It is good, and I've heard. Well, I shouldn't say it's a rumor because there's nothing. It was just thrown out there by, I think it was actually a Boston College blog that said, you know what, there should be a tournament every December in Madison Square Garden for all the former original Big East teams, you know?
Yeah, I read that. I thought that was great. I thought that was a fantastic idea.
That would be awesome. Of course, in order to do that, Syracuse would probably no longer to be able to play, you know, because in addition to that, we got the ACC Big 10 Challenge every year to play in. That's one tough game. And that that Big East tournament that we're talking about, you could be 2-3 really tough games. So you don't want to, you don't want to go out Michigan State with the schedule and make it too tough. We still want to, notch up some easy wins here in December. But yeah, this schedule is fun. Right off the bat, before we're out of the month of November, we're going to be playing an SEC team in the Barclays Center and a Big Ten team in Wisconsin. And then in December, we have UConn, Georgetown, and St. John's. It's going to be fun. And it's got to be because, you know what? Once that ACC schedule starts, it's not that much fun. Still. It's still not that much fun to me. You know?
It's a grind, but it's it's a tough league, but I mean Syracuse has one of the best teams coming into the season that they've had in several years, and they're still preseason 5th in that conference.
Yeah.
Which I mean on the one hand I'm like, wow, it is a tough league, but on the other hand it's like, come on, really?
It's not that tough a league.
Right.
It's top heavy like it always is, but we should be one of the top heavy teams.
Right. Yeah, I mean 5th. I mean it's definitely, when you look at the preseason and listen to people, what they've said is, there's a top 5 and kind of everybody else, and everybody below Syracuse, so there's a big drop off below Syracuse. But in that case, why is it that Syracuse tends to be at the bottom of the top tier? Why? What makes Louisville a better team? This team just came off the Final Four. They've got firepower coming back.
Yeah.
What Virginia lost a couple of very key guys this past off season, and Syracuse had their number in the postseason. So why? I don't know.
That's life in the ACC.
And it's the ACC media, which still struggles with thinking that Syracuse is relevant in this league.
It's the same way that I suppose in the Big East that Syracuse had the nod, which is one of the arguments I always made against how it's not going to be the same. When we were in the Big East, we were one of the founding members. We were the one with all the history. We had, I don't want to say that we had preferential treatment because these preseason rankings really have nothing to do with treatment, but all the sports writers and coaches and whoever that voted on this stuff, they knew that, probably more often than not, all things being equal, give the nod to Syracuse because, historically they've done it. But in the ACC, I guess they're saying let's give the nod to, NC State or Miami.
But, I don't know. The Southern League and the Northern teams don't necessarily have the same level of excitement.
And while we're on the ACC bashing for 1 second here, hey, we beat Virginia Tech in football this year. How great was that? And it's the first time we've played them since we've been in the ACC, and we won't play them again until 2021.
Yes. So ridiculous.
It is.
How do you play in the same league as a team and not playing for 5 years? I don't understand that. Well, I'll never understand that.
Yeah, it's the whole state of college sports is changing, and our old ball coach Jim Boeheim's adjusting to it as best he can. So
credit to him. No one ever kind of thought he would, but he has.
So we got a few extra minutes here. And we're about to make our predictions for the upcoming season, but let's make another prediction. How many more years will Boeheim coach? Because he's only supposed to coach 2 more years, according to, what they said. And this was under Dr. Darryl Gross's watch. We've got John Wildhack's the new AD now for Syracuse. So I think I had a feeling that during the NCAA investigation that Dr. Gross said, look, coach, we need to get some continuity for this program, and, there's a lot of uncertainty, so we need you to set a timeline for your retirement. Bam doesn't want to retire 2 years from now. I guarantee you that. He doesn't want to. And I have been saying for about the past 6-8 months that he's not going to retire 2 years from now. He's going to go on indefinitely, maybe as many as 5, maybe as many as 10. What do you think?
I tend to think that more than I believe that he'll stop in 2 more years, honestly. I think having John Wildhack, who he has a great relationship with, and he has for a long time, even before he came in as AD, I think that has kind of rejuvenated him a little bit. I think certainly going to the Final Four last year and bringing in this great crop of freshmen, and there's other guys coming in that are slated right behind these guys, that I think he's really feels like he's in a real good place. And I don't, if you've got the passion and got the enthusiasm for it, why stop? I think the only reason he wouldn't, he's a man of integrity, and he's sort of laid that out for Mike Hopkins to say, this is going to be your program in, this amount of time. And, it's sort of by continuing indefinitely, it really it was a bit of a slap to Mike Hopkins, maybe, where Hopkins maybe could have looked at other opportunities, and instead he's locked himself in on this one, thinking it's going to be 2 years or 3 years, now 2 years.
He does love it, though.
Yeah, he does. As much as I would love to see Mike Hopkins, I could absolutely see this program be led by Jim Boeheim for another 6-7 years, and then Jerry McNamara takes over.
Yeah, that's been something that's been kind of tossed around too. I don't know if I don't think Mike Hopkins would ever be upset about his lot in life. But do you think that the team's poor performance under Hopkins last December, when Boeheim was serving his suspension, rattled some people a little bit? Because most people thought there wasn't going to be any drop-off when Hopkins took over. And I don't think that how they did under Hopkins in December of last year is really an indication of any potential drop-off if he ever took over. But do you think that it might have potentially maybe rattled a few cages, saying, hey, coach, why don't you stay a little longer?
I don't think it could have helped Hopkins' case. I know that. Everybody said it was going to be hard for him. He was like a substitute teacher in a sense, and the kids are going to take advantage of the substitute teacher in a way. But it's something that he's been prepping for his whole professional life. It'd be hard for them to say no, sorry, you're not the guy after all, on the basis of 6 or 7 games.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're up against it now with about 4 minutes to go here in the show. Time to give our official predictions for the season ahead. And want me to go first, or you want to go first?
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I always look at things through orange-colored glasses, and what I see is a lot of tools for Boeheim to work with. If half of them pan out to be what we hope they are, then we got a great team. I think that we will ascend through the top 25. We're 17 preseason in the AP poll, I believe. I think we'll find ourselves well entrenched inside the top 10, especially if we can get that road win at Wisconsin as we head towards Christmas. And then, from there, we'll see how we do in the ACC. But this team seems to be pretty well built for a deep tournament run. So I'm going to call it a 24-win regular season, 23-24 win regular season, and return to the Final Four.
I like it.
Any variants? What is that? What do you think?
I don't know how many regular season games they have. I was just looking at the schedule here to try and add them up, and I ran out of time. That's why I wanted you to go first. Yeah, I think winning 20 games. This team will have no trouble winning 20 games. I think they can get to 25 wins. Honestly, what I see them in the ACC going 14-4 in the regular season in the ACC. They've got home and home with Pitt, which I think they can win. They've got home and home with BC, which
Jamie Dixon's gone, so it's all bets. Jamie Dixon's gone from Pitt, so all bets are off.
Yeah. So that's why I think that they can win the home and home with Pitt because Jamie Dixon knew how to beat this team, man. I forget who they replaced him with, but it didn't.
It ain't Jamie Dixon.
It was a retread coach that's been around a long time, and I drawn a blank now. And they have home and home with Louisville. At Louisville will be a tough one. I'll be down there with my son. We're gonna support the Orange there, and hopefully we get them over the top there.
And once against Duke,
Carolina, they'll struggle there. They've got Duke and Virginia in the Dome.
Yep.
Those
just once. Once.
This schedule lines up very, very well for Syracuse, honestly.
So
I think I think losing. I think they can go 14-4 in the ACC. I think you lose. You may lose at Louisville, at North Carolina. You stub your toe once against a Florida State or Clemson or something like that, and then maybe you lose to either UVA or Duke in the Dome, and that's it.
Well, if that's,
I think this game's easily Elite Eight, depending on matchups, is absolutely a Final Four team.
Well, we are looking at the whole slate ahead of us, and we'll be back once a week throughout the whole winter to talk about it. And our new setup here with Skype and Brad in for the video wasn't perfect tonight, but overall I think it worked pretty good, and it was a lot more fun, I think, for our viewers not to just see my face alone all show long. So we'll work out the kinks, and it's going to be a great season of podcasting. Brad, talking about the Orange.
Good. Looking forward to it. A lot of fun. Best time of the year.
So thanks to everybody for joining us tonight on the Upstate Orange podcast. We'll be back again next Sunday. Check out our schedule at fingerlakes1.tv for the start time. We'll have that locked in by the end of next week. And you can subscribe to our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or via RSS. We're online at fingerlakes1.tv/Upstate Orange. So for the professor, Brad Connor, I'm Jim Sinicropi. Have a great week, folks, and let's go Orange.